Hello, I hope you are well. Tonight, I'm having a guest with me here, and of course, we are going to discuss much that pertains and that surrounds and goes all around the African continent. This is a guy who is an African, he loves Africa, and everything that revolves around Africa. He loves the term, I am Africa and Africa is my business. So allow me introduce to you Paul Jubilee Worth, Santo Worth, as he loves calling himself, so that we can have this conversation together. Thank you very much. Paul.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm super good.
You are doing well.
I'm doing well.
I'm so happy to have you here. And just to begin with this, are you African or are you Kenyan?
I am an African.
You are African.
I'm more than Kenyan to be an African. Yeah.
Why do you say so?
Because I love my Africanness. Every person in Africa is like a brother. We are only divided by borders. So I cannot contain myself to be a Kenyan, but contain myself in the broader scene as an African, because I'm black and Africa is black, and this is our home, actually.
Oh, nice. Now, to begin with, I'll go straight to economy.
Yeah.
If you look at African economy,
Yeah.
whether all the countries, whether Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, all the countries, when you look at the economy of Africa, personally, I feel there is something that should be done.
Of course, yes.
So I don't know of your opinion, because opinions vary, and of course people's mindsets also vary. So what can you say about the African economy, and what do you think the leaders should do to ensure the African economy is self-reliant, self-dependent, and that we can move without much issues?
Actually, it is very true that Africa as a continent and the African countries, we are really punching below our weight. We have great potential. We can do much better than what we are doing currently, because number one, we are still serving, and the days where we are really in poverty, our citizens are suffering, our healthcare is very low, and there is a number of things that should be done. Even the world standard, we are below it, and actually we should move. And I have an opinion, and I'm very sure that it can be changed. Number one, we have resources. Number two, we have the people with the right minds, and people who have the right skills that can do things that can make us change our continent. But the only thing that is wrong is with our leaders. The leadership of Africa is not concerned, is not having Africa at heart. And that's the reason why we are punching below our weight. Number one, we have to have a central business point of Africa where we can do our business. Africa should start producing its goods. We should have our industries, and we should really invest in that. Africa should invest in agriculture. We should produce our own food. We should stop importing food from other countries, perhaps Asia, perhaps the West. And doing that, we will diversify our economy with a number of things, manufacturing industries, and we produce our goods, then our economy will actually grow, actually.
Now, when we talk about economy, we can't really call it a day before we talk about currency. What do you think about African? Because I've heard some African leaders, and of course I've watched a number of clips going around with a number of African leaders trying to talk about Africa having its own currency. What can you talk about, or what do you think about Africa having its own currency?
Yeah, it is very true that the fact that we are having different currencies, it is limiting us from doing business. And for us to grow an economy which will be very competitive to the world, we must have a single economy called the African. Maybe our currency be called African currency, or a name it can be given, the Afro. We should have one single currency as Africa.
As Africa.
Yeah, it will facilitate us maybe perhaps doing business together, and maybe having a central business point as Africans.
Now that you, or Jubilee as people call you, is an African, and somebody who has Africa at heart. Now, when we talk about Africa and the countries that are within Africa, we are divided with borders. That is very true. So if you come from Kenya, for instance, and you want to visit another country, you'll either be needed to have a passport or a visa or whichever document, right? So what do you think about the borders within Africa?
It is very sad that the colonial government imposed on us the borders, and we are still living with the borders to date. And it should be something that should be done as soon as now, that we should eliminate our borders. And as a Kenyan, I can easily move to Uganda, I can get to Nigeria, I can get to Ethiopia without having a limitation or without being maybe required of a visa, because we are one people. We should have one government, even in fact one government that should be controlling Africa, which will drive our unity. We'll know each other's brothers. We do our business together. I can just go and work in South Africa if I need to go. I can even go to Ghana if I'm an engineer, for example. I can go and do engineering in Ghana, do business in Ghana perhaps. Maybe I go to Liberia, do my things there, because we are Africans, we are one people. So the borders should be eliminated as soon as possible.
Now, what about security? When we eliminate the borders and then we have Africa as one. So whether you're in Kenya, and of course we're talking about one leadership, so I want to believe that is now a centralized leadership with maybe one as the head of the whole Africa, or maybe board, or maybe like we just have leadership of Africa, right? And then of course every country now to have their own also leaders who may be answerable to this, the central leadership now of Africa. Now, what about security of these specific countries now?
Yeah, you know, there is a number of reasons why we've always fought against each other. Maybe perhaps the economy, people are fighting for maybe they need to own something. Maybe in terms of ethnicity, they regard themselves, we are of this ethnic group, we cannot unite with you. Perhaps it is about religion. To me, people are still living in the era of the colonial government. To mean that they are still having the mindset that we are given by those people. As Africans, we should get to understand that we are one people, that we should never fight against each other. We should unite, we should be brothers and sisters and look and care after each other. We should work together, then we shall develop ourselves. When we continue fighting against each other, to mean we will never develop ourselves. We will still continue punching in poverty, and we'll still live with all our diseases. We'll never sustain ourselves, we'll never produce our food when we are no longer together. Actually, that's my view.
I'm sure that I'll again call you for a good conversation another day. But before we finish, when you talk about Africa, everybody will think about corruption, because there's no country within Africa that we can talk about, or maybe if you mention, you say it is corruption free. In one way or the other, you must find some elements of corruption within that country, right? Now, when it comes to corruption, what do you think, or what methods can we employ as Africans that can help us completely eliminate corruption, or if not completely eliminate, but then reduce it to the possible minimum? Yes?
Number one, you know, it is something that is really bad actually, because it is really bringing us down as a people. We are doing a number of things which should not be done at this time, and it is just because of our leadership. And as the African people, we have the power to change this. We have the power to change our leadership. We have the power to choose leaders who we are sure can drive us to the right direction, who are anti-corruption, who are ready to fight for us, to develop us, and to do things which shall actually benefit the citizens of Africa as a continent. So it is a matter of us. Like, for example, allow me use an example of Kenya. We do our voting after 5 years. We should actually decide that we want to choose leaders that are anti-corruption, that will be having the people at heart, not be selfish, that they'll be there to develop themselves. So this is what we should consider when we are choosing our leadership, actually.
Are there any leaders in Africa that you look up to and you believe they can bring change?
Yeah, I'm sure there are a number of people who I love what they're doing in Africa currently. Number one, I can mention Malema of South Africa. That guy is very courageous. He's really having the move. He wants to change our economy. He's after uniting Africa at one point, and that is what we also are after. We need Africa to be together. We need us to develop ourselves, to maybe have an economic freedom for our lifetime, actually.
I'm looking forward to a day when Africa will be a superpower.
Yeah.
Do you think this is possible?
I'm one person who believes that one of these days, maybe I shall have gone to the world of the non-living, but I'm sure Africa will one day unite. But for it to be so, we have also to work as a people, and we have to work towards that. Actually, we have to work for it, and with the time, the continuing people, our other generations will proceed working on the same direction, and one day Africa will unite and will be a superpower because we have everything that can make us become a superpower. We have resources, we have intelligent people, we have a number of things, water, we have everything that we need to become a superpower. Yeah.
Now, finally, what do you think about now Africa and its resources?
Yeah.
Generally, you know, if you look around, just to be sincere, we have so much resources that every country in Africa has got something they can brag about, right? Maybe, what do you think about this?
Actually, Africa should manage its own resources, and Africa should now at this point produce its maybe manufacture its resources to maybe finished products. We should start producing our phones, we should start doing our things, maybe manufacturing or processing our gold mines and everything we do, because actually the superpowers currently, they are who they are because of African resources. So if we decide to manage them ourselves and maybe do our things we sell them to them in our own terms, maybe as an African people with the united currency and everything as one, then we will be where we should be.
If you look at Africa and every country that is within Africa, people go to school, people study, and people venture into different fields. But now when things are done that are sponsored by the government or even maybe other people, basically, let's talk of building roads, or maybe let's talk of our airports, like infrastructure. You find out that the government gives this contract to the West. But I believe people go to school and these people are learned, these people have skills. Does it mean Africans cannot be in a position or are not capable completely to build these things, or maybe to take part and of course come up with the best out of it?
It is actually a worry because there is unemployment in Africa, and the people who are graduates, people who have degrees, who have done all these things that are necessary for them to maybe perhaps venture in those fields and maybe build our roads. And it is just something out of the government. The government maybe looks for cheap labor from outside. The government maybe considers that maybe they have a commission because perhaps they take a loan from them and they need maybe to work according to their terms, to the terms of those people. It is a time that our leadership should decide that we want to give these jobs to Africans and give them to our people because we have the necessary skills. Because if it is about cheap labor, African people should decide that we will be there to offer the cheap labor, but we do the jobs ourselves. We develop our country and we do because we have the right skills. We are from schools, we've done everything that is necessary. If it is about the government not trusting our skills, why are they schooling us then? Let them give us the right skill and we do those things ourselves. Actually, that is the fact about it.
Now, anything else left out that you feel you should tell the African people?
Yeah, it is very true that at this point we need a people that should unite. We have people who can drive the unity. To mean we are calling out for courageous young men and women, especially the youths, that we can speak to our people, we can unite and maybe develop ourselves and maybe mobilize other people, other Africans, that we should push towards our unity. We should get to our leaderships and make things change, that tomorrow, maybe perhaps the future, our and new generations, they shall enjoy of this. So it is just a call for young people. Let us come together, unite and fight this war together.
Nice.
We shall win it.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll have you again. That was our nice conversation, and I want to believe that all of you have gotten something. Africa is a big continent. Africa has a good population, and Africa is very rich in resources. So if you are keen on what we've discussed, then you are quite sure that we can do much more, and of course we can be better placed. So from our to our leaders, and every African, whether you live within Africa or maybe you live outside Africa, please have it in mind, Africa is home and we need to make Africa great. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to subscribe and share, like, and leave your comment on anything that you think or you have in mind about Africa. Bye bye. My name is Kwach.